So let's talk about the voter integrity project. Do you want to just explain what it is and what you did?
Sure. So a couple days after the election, I had some ideas about ways to detect potentially illegal ballots. I shared the idea with a few people privately, but no one really took me up on it. And I didn't want to even, I initially did not plan to have anything to do with it. It was just, hey, here's some methods you could use to potentially detect illegal ballots. And I tweeted about it. And at the time I had like 200 Twitter followers or something. And somebody who followed me, who had a little bit of influence, retweeted it. And then somebody else retweeted it. And then it sort of exploded. And people were saying, well, you should set up a GoFundMe. Because in the initial tweet I said, well, it's probably going to cost about $100K for just the data to do this. And I said, okay, fine. I set up a GoFundMe, and we raised $220K.
Wow.
And within 24 hours.
Wow.
And then GoFundMe shut the thing down and refunded everybody their money.
Whoa.
They lied to a journalist about why they shut us down. And I have the record of this, and we may have more legal matters to discuss.
Can you
in the
tell us
future.
why?
Oh, sure. What they said was that we were spreading misinformation. We didn't spread it. All we said was like, here's some tests we want to run. And this is what we're going to do with the money. They told a reporter they'd shut us down for spreading disinformation. Wow. So within a few, I did my homework. We found another crowdfunding site called Give, Send, Go. I can't recommend these guys enough. Their rates are very fair. I knew they weren't going to throw us off. And in fact, they don't make money directly on it. It's just that when you make a contribution to us, they ask you for, hey, do you want to help us out too? And a lot of people do. So we were able to raise much more. When we hit 580,000,
whoa!
I said that look, we've raised enough money to cover what I think are the expenses of this project. We're not asking for any more money. Any money that's left over after we're done will be returned to donors if they like it. Any money that's left over after that will go to a C3 that
a nonprofit.
A nonprofit that's basically about voter registration and fighting potential voter fraud. And in all those cases, no matter where it goes, I'm not personally going to take a penny of it. And so, but despite that, people have continued to contribute. We're almost 100,000 beyond where I said, okay, we have the money to cover this.
So you're looking at doing some tests on whether or not ballots may be illegal. Is that correct to say?
That's how we started. And I built a team of a couple of people who have similar backgrounds to my own. And we started obtaining raw voter data from states.
So can you explain that? Because that was crazy to me that you can get people's information on how they voted, or not how they voted, but that they voted.
Oh, well, you can get indications about how they voted. This is, it's too bad we don't have a screen or something, because I can just pop it open. I know everything that anybody would want to know about every voter in this country. That's at my fingertips.
That's kind of creepy.
Hey, that's life. And it's kind of unique to the United States, because I've talked to doing political consulting in other countries. It's kind of difficult because they have very strong privacy laws in Europe, etc. But in the U.S., I know everything a campaign would want to know. So in terms of voter contact or voter analysis, it's all there. And in this case, we were able to obtain, voter lists from the state. The states often release chase files, and that means that every day for like 2 months leading up to the election, they release a list of all the people who requested ballots or returned ballots, who showed up to vote early. And that's helpful for campaigns, because if you have like these 100,000 people you're trying to reach and turn out to vote, if the state says, okay, this person just voted, you can take them off their list. So you're no longer wasting money on doors, phones, mail, and social, anything else to target them, because you can take them off your list and focus on the remaining ones. It's called strike listing. So all this is very useful for that. But in this case, we obtained that data to use it to try to detect potential problems, and we used other government databases to help validate our methods and to compile our evidence.
Can you tell us some of these tests? What were you proposing to do during this original GoFundMe and this new kind of fundraiser?
Well, initially we were going to do some traditional analysis, looking at double voters, looking at people who no longer had residency, looking for potential dead voters. And as we got into it, we started to discover other things, other methods that we had not thought of, but then said, oh, that's something we should look into. Because this is unprecedented. This has not really been done before, where you go in depth after an election, because usually after an election, the margin is such that there's no doubt, and nobody's got any money left. And everyone, honestly, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas time. We are unique because we have this long period between the election and when the person takes office. Now, in the UK, day after election, they're in and out of Downing Street. It's like that. Whereas, Yeah, it's immediate.
That sounds terrible.
Well,
I think it's already bad enough that we have a couple months, because if you really wanted to do any kind of hard investigation, we don't have the time to do it, and we have months.
Right. Well, rarely have we had the need, I think. And again, it goes back to what I said, is that the fundamental problem behind a lot of this is that you remember Florida 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nightmare, a couple hundred votes, nightmare. The thing is, I don't think there's any state that would not be a nightmare if the election came down to a couple thousand votes and it was very pivotal. There's not a state, I think, that would escape finding all kinds of flaws. It's just that those states they're saved by the victor winning by enough of a margin that it's like, yes, the errors and potential, if it existed, fraud can't overcome that margin. But here we are.
In some of the lawsuits Trump presented, the judges have said the amount of ballots you're questioning would not be enough to change the outcome, therefore dismissed. I think that's kind of silly because you add up 10 lawsuits targeting specific different things, maybe, but that's actually been some of the results.
Yeah, that's more a question for the lawyers in terms, because I've seen cases where actually the number of questionable ballots did not have to surpass the margin. It just had to demonstrate some kind of pattern, and that was enough to get it thrown out. I think that was the case in Miami when a judge ruled there was voter fraud down there and threw out a mayor's election. Can
you elaborate any more on what the Voter Integrity Project has done so far, or is that off limits?
I think my Twitter feeds covered it extensively, but we found all kinds of indications of illegal ballots and other anomalies. We presented them on YouTube. It's pretty... we essentially ran about 38 tests across 6 different states, and we put our results out there publicly. Just at this point, for the next short period of time, I think I've been encouraged, to respect the litigation, and
we don't want to, with respect to the judges involved in this case, I think they would appreciate it if we weren't, litigating in public.
Right, but once that's done, we'll crack that laptop up, put a projector up, and start
showing stuff.
Within the limits is that I don't want to dox anybody.
Yeah.
But there's ways to get around that. And
I can just to interject, because for a lot of people who are just tuning in, I have independently, I guess you can say independently corroborated, at least.
Well, I
don't know what you can say.
No, so you sidestepped me, and I showed you some things, and you made an evaluation based on that.
After I saw it, I went and did some general sleuthing and was able to independently corroborate through different databases, and it's very interesting, more than once. So I think you found something. I mean, I guess we'll see how it plays out in the courts, but I do think it's shocking. I mean, we kicked off this conversation reading through this response from these other states saying that there's no evidence. And that to me is shocking, considering I just corroborated something. I'll put it that way.
And I corroborated the corroborators.
Right.
Can we play a middle ground here and say, how excited or surprised were you from some of the findings? We don't have to discuss the findings, but maybe your level of excitement or shock?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think I was surprised by certain things that I found, and not surprised by other things. I said on video, without going into detail, that I believe that in enough states there were enough potentially illegal ballots to surpass the margins, and thus cast into doubt in my mind whether or not Joe Biden's the deserved winner. Now I've said that publicly, so I don't have a problem really repeating that. But there were some things that excited me. And not just about the data, but also the process, this journey I've gone on with the...
We'll clarify too. Like, we're not at the point where that's definitive. It's just signs and indications, perhaps.
I'll save that one for later.
There you go.
All right.
Where does this go from here? What's the next process? What are we waiting for? How is this going to play out?
Well, right now it's in the hands of the lawyers, the judges, the legislators. I'm just at the point now where I answer questions about my findings and potentially, answer other questions as they come up. So from my perspective, the base research has been done and completed. We're just, giving lawyers affidavits and declarations and potentially testifying here and there.
Is this in any way related? I don't know. Feel free to not answer if you can't. If you can't, is this in any way related to the states filing suits?
I'm not going to answer. I can't answer that right now, but that's a question I'm happy to answer with a brief delay.
Right on. Well, it's I'm happy you're here. Okay, but it is it's walking a fine line, because I'm like, I would probably be extremely upset if something happened from this show, in a lawsuit where they're like, we're going to cite, the Timcast Arrow podcast where Matt Braynard said this, and then all of a sudden it's like case dismissed or something. So I guess for the people who are listening, I have no choice. We have no choice but to just try and, graze this as best we can without ruining everything. I think they support that too, because I'm pretty sure people would be calling for my head on. I got to be careful about the language I use. People would be calling for
your beanie on a spike.
Yes, my beanie. They said, take his beanie. He had to do this show.
We're observing the Bannon rule here, I see.
Yes.
Oh, definitely, man.
Okay.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.